The men's national team fall again? Is there a new type of soccer fan growing in Texas? And we have a pair of guests, and we dive deep into the base of the pyramid with the Midwest Premier League and how to start your own club. That and more on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kicker on the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. My name is Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, Jason Davis, radio soccer guy. How you feeling here on Hump Day?
Not as good as I was before this international window, Rob. I've had a bit of a come down with the World Cup coming and my national team struggling, and I think we need to talk about it a little bit and see where people are. But, otherwise, the weather has turned in the Mid-Atlantic states. Got out for a run yesterday, making soccer things with my friends. What could be better than that? I'm trying to be positive here on a Wednesday.
Yes, definitely a search for silver linings type of a day, especially when it comes to the national team. But looks like we have some MK Ultras, members of the channel, the ultimate supporters of this show, checking in already. As per usual, Mr. Bob donating another membership and a note that he's been a member for 4 months. So thank you, Bob, for your membership. We got to track down that lost sweatshirt of yours.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Bob, I'm so sorry. We're going to figure out what's going on with that. Shout out to our man Dwayne there in the Carolinas, doing some multitasking. This is how soccer should be consumed, or this show rather. Sort team laundry while your kids are watching super simple songs. Sounds incredible, Dwayne.
Yep, we got Bill in Peoria. Morning, Bill. Hope you're feeling well. We got John, Jeff, CD Gobjects, my guy. He's saying there's a lot to talk about with the international matches, of course. Mountain to CFC, you already got to him. Dwayne, Michael, good morning to you, sir.
Mario, you skipped Tulsa Mario. How dare you, sir?
That was down the list. Come on, give me a break. That was down the list.
Look, you skipped him, and he just gifted 5 more memberships because that's how we do it. That's how it works. Thank you, Tulsa Mario.
I didn't miss him. He just wasn't listed yet. I was
Homeless Shoe is here.
You're trying to draw a division between us here. Just because it's the last week of us here right now. It doesn't mean you need to start sowing division.
I'm not sorry. I didn't mean to. Are you wearing multiple shirts on top of other shirts? What's going on?
Me?
You wearing a sweatshirt on top of a.
I'm wearing a hoodless sweatshirt. All right.
It seems like you're wearing like 3 different shirts. I can't. You're so puffed up.
Maybe I'll come down a layer and go to red t-shirt here in a second. See, sewing division. You're talking about my thanking the listeners. Now you're talking about my costume choices. Wow, things are heating up here.
I'm just trying to keep it light because we're about to get into something kind of distressing here. So, support the show, become a member, join up on the channel, become an MK Ultra, get access to the Discord, to the bonus content, to all kinds of things. Shout out to everybody who's already supported us. By the way, if you were gifted a membership and you're no longer a member, consider becoming a member yourself and taking advantage of all of the incredible things we've got going on at Morning Kick-Around. And your support is going to be more important than ever as we move into a new phase of Morning Kick-Around because Rob and I are going to have to find some time to keep making stuff. I intend to be live, but that's going to be a lift. So support the show. Keep us going. What else, Rob?
Everything you just said. We will be together, though, out in Pawtucket May 9th still. And other things on the agenda. There's also the MK store. You can still find hoodless sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and more. But there you have. That's the poster. Me and Jason in Pawtucket, May 9th, courtesy of Blackstone Valley. Big kudos to Blackstone Valley for having us out there. Very excited for that trip. That was already blocked out before the big changes came. So we will be live on scene there, learning some history of soccer in the area. Lots of Open Cup lore in that area of the country, and then getting to see one of the United States premier lower league stadiums there in Pawtucket. Can't wait for that. Sluggo, what up? Union Omaha. I think did you say that there were some renderings or something there in Omaha?
Yeah, I saw the rendering. I didn't save it. It happened right before the show that I saw that. So maybe we'll have to come back around to that, Rob. But, while there was some negative things happening on the international stage for the United States last night, there were also Open Cup matches. And we didn't build that into our rundown today, but maybe after our guests, we should give the Open Cup a little love. That would be a thing.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I had selfishly my own mind. I was on my travels, and then I'm intending to travel up to Grand Blanc for Detroit City FC versus Flint City Bucks. So I'm in my own head with the Open Cup stuff.
I mean, I understand that language is fluid. I still can't believe it's Grand Blank. I just cannot believe it is Grand Blank, Rob.
Hey, there's no defense of it. There is no defense of it. I'll just blame other American cities.
Oh, it's not you. Yeah, you didn't do it. Somewhere along the line, Michiganders were like, French? What? No. Grand Blank. All right, sure. Why not?
I sure would love to see a Detroiters reaction if like someone French speaking came and called it "de toi," like face to face. I want to see that reaction. That could be priceless.
I'm sure that's been a bit in some show, one of those sketch shows that I'm behind on. Like I haven't watched what are the shows that anyway, it doesn't
like
matter.
Key and Peele or something like that, or like the modern sketch shows.
After that, never mind.
I feel like there's everything. I feel like there's every kind of aspect or cultural reference as it goes back to either a Key and Peele sketch or even farther back to
I think I'm talking about specifically Tim Robinson's stuff because Tim Robinson is from Detroit.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I was trying to yeah, okay. Yeah, what if we said it was Des Plaines? I guess it is Des Plaines.
Well, when I lived in Chicagoland, I thought it was nails on a chalkboard when they said Des Plaines instead of Des Plaines.
Oh, Des Plaines, right. That's what it is. Des Plaines. That's another one where it just got okay. Yeah, the Detroiters. So it's thanks to again. I'm not even up. I'm a comedy guy. I'm still not even up on this stuff, so I don't even know. All right, Rob. We've done some promotion. We've done some good business here. We've got some stories to talk about. What are we doing? What do we set us up?
All right, at the top of the hour, we are talking to Steve Beckman, president of the Midwest Premier League. We'll talk about that. They got a whole lot of new teams, new regions, and want to see and let the listeners know what their place in the summer soccer landscape is. Then we're going to be talking to MK Ultra, friend of the show, Tom Franklin, about his project with a couple of his friends there in St. Louis. They have launched their DIY club, Forest Park Rangers, and the launch has gone really well for them so far. So we'll get the details on that. But before that, we're going to talk about a soccer movement in Texas. But right now, the segment that we've been dreading, especially Jason, we're going to lead off with the fallout from the men's national team, falling 7-2 in aggregate on the March windows matches here. So let's get to it. Wednesday's morning kick round. Let's do it here on a Wednesday. Welcome on in. It is Wednesday, April 1st, and no joke here, men's national team lose again, dropping a 2-0 result against Portugal in Atlanta last night. Fans were hoping for some encouragement after losing 5-2 to Belgium. While the color contrast between the two teams' kits was better, the result ultimately wasn't.
Yes, they knew who to pass the ball to, and they scored fewer goals than they did against Belgium, where the color clash was a massive problem, according to many players. This was not an encouraging window for the United States men's national team. Now, Mauricio Pochettino tried to dress it up in the aftermath. And by the way, if you want to hear me break down Pochettino's comments, become a bestie on the Best Soccer Show, and you get access to my office hours today. That's later. You know, we came into this asking some questions about who would step up, a couple of positional things. It was good to have Chris Richards back in the lineup after he was unavailable against Belgium. We thought maybe that was a step forward. And then Mauricio Pochettino threw at us a very weird lineup that had Christian Pulisic as a striker. That's the position he declared it, a striker. After the game, Doug McIntyre of Fox Sports, good friend of mine, said, hey, you had Christian in like a false nine, and Poch was like, no. He was a striker. He wasn't a false nine. He was a striker. He played as a striker like he does at Milan sometimes. You know why he plays as a striker at Milan? Because they ain't got nobody. Santi Jimenez has been injured. Olivier Giroud's long gone. They haven't found anybody. Fulkrug's not the answer. They haven't found anybody to fill that role. That's why Pulisic has to play it. The U.S. men's national team has center forwards. They had 3 of them on this roster that could have stepped into that role. Balogun, who came on later in the game. Ajamung obviously scored against Belgium. Would have been nice to see him get more time. Ricardo Pepi. I mean,
We have forwards, right?
it was weird. The whole thing was awkward and weird, and I don't know what Mauricio Pochettino's mind, where his brain is right now. And I don't think it's as bad as it seems, but I'm struggling mightily, Rob, to find the silver lining. And then there was this from Pulisic after the game. I remember people were doubting us after the 2022 September camp, because remember, we had a Winter World Cup back then.
Yeah.
We didn't have a great camp. At the end of the day, we go in and have a great World Cup. It's all behind us. It's better to happen now. We're going to figure out when it counts. I'm okay with positivity. I think some people might take issue with great World Cup back in 2022, Rob. But you said something before the show that I think is the mindset of a lot of fans. What was that?
Oh, what's the mindset of a lot of fans? Oh man, I can't.
2022 compared to this one. Like, what did you say your feelings were that World Cup versus this one?
Okay, yeah, I'm picking up that thread. So going into 2022, everyone was so young in that squad. I didn't have a lot or any expectations going into that. In my mind, this generation of players, everything was leading up to 2026. Those young, hopeful players will hopefully mature over that 4 years and develop into some great players, and that this whole cycle ultimately was building to this moment in 2026. And now that we're here, a window away, we have comments like this. We're going to figure it out like next month, which is pretty disheartening there, because I said on Monday's show, this team does not look fully baked in any way. And in the previous window, it looked like Pochettino had something figured out, the 3-back system, and they were kind of like getting it, like the focus narrowed, because spent most of the Pochettino era, it was experimenting, learning what he had, who was available, what were the strengths were, and it looked like that focus was narrowing. And while maybe that was a wrench in the works because there was the Tyler Adams injury and some other things, but it still looks like experimentation, and that expectation going into 22, that was like a precursor to 26. I don't know if we're any better than we were in 2022.
Okay, well, there are a couple of things I think are worth pointing out to provide some perspective and to make sure we're not spiraling too much as a national team fan base, because a lot of things can still happen, and good things can still happen at the World Cup. I didn't see a team over these two games. They can't at least be in every match they play in at the World Cup. At least the group stage matches. We'll consider the knockout phase if we get there, because it is fair to say they were pretty good against Belgium in the first half. It is fair to say that at least for the first 20 minutes against Portugal, they were the team on the front foot. They were the team trying to create chances. Were they good chances? Okay, maybe there's some question there. And if you look at the two goals last night, Rob, and I went back and looked at them again this morning, because obviously I was extremely distressed with the ultimate result. You go back and you look, and you've got a turnover by Weston McKennie as the U.S. is trying to play out of pressure along the right side. He plays the ball back to the middle. It ends up on a Portuguese foot. Aiden Morris, and other people have called this out. I read Matt Doyle's piece immediately after. Aiden Morris, and maybe Berhalter was involved in this as well, kind of lets the ball go by and then watches as Portugal streams forward, and it's a cutback situation, right? It's a get to the end line, cut the ball back. If Morris is on his horse and is near the penalty spot or 10 or 12 yards away from goal, where he should be if he's covering the ground as a defensive midfielder, which he was supposed to be in this system, well, then maybe that goal doesn't happen, right? And then on the second one, set piece defending, what I guess we presume some sort of Portuguese meat wall was coming, and they just leave João Felix out there as like he had time to set up a picnic and enjoy a nice sandwich and maybe wave at some pretty girls before he took that shot. And then he scores a goal that comes through a bunch of bodies that Matt Freese has no chance at. Like, I think you can look at those individual moments and say those are correctable. And maybe if Tyler Adams is in the game, the first goal doesn't happen. And maybe if they just sort out their set piece defending a little bit, and maybe if Tyler Adams is in the game, again, Aiden Morris not closing down João Felix, maybe that goal doesn't happen. So I think there are ways to look at those goals and say they may not be the kind of goals that make you think they're just not capable of competing. But of course, they didn't score either. And again, the silver lining thing is no Tyler Adams. If he's healthy, are they a better team? Right? Play a center forward, Mauricio Pochettino, por favor. Like, That's certainly a thing. Alex Freeman, I got no problem with, but maybe there are better ways to deploy those players. I don't know, Rob. It's dark. I just don't think it's so dark we can't see the light.
Yeah, I agree with you there that yeah, with the friendlies and all the switches and the unavailabilities and everything, it's hard to beat them down for these friendlies, as they are friendlies overall. No one will remember them if they do have a good World Cup, but that camp before the World Cup has got to be the best, like 2 weeks of getting it together that there ever could be, if they are figuring it out in the World Cup camp itself.
Yeah,
I'm
look,
pretty good at silver linings, and I'm having a hard time.
Sluggo saying, I said this before, I'll say it again, the lack of qualifiers hurt us badly. By the way, if you are relitigating history as to why we might be here, the fact that they retained Greg Berhalter after the 2022 World Cup and the process that led to his retention and the wasted time under Berhalter they had before they brought in Pochettino, and maybe Pochettino wouldn't have been available. I don't know. But that whole situation was ridiculous, and that's part of this. But now you can't change that. What you can hopefully do is get better from here. And again, I don't want to say that Mauricio Pochettino is out of his depth as a football man. He understands the game clearly. I just think he is tinkering for the sake of tinkering, and it's a bad path. It's the wrong way to go. And I do think it matters. Clearly, Poach does not, or he just has convinced himself that the tinkering will work every single time it doesn't. But I think it matters to build momentum towards the World Cup. I think it matters to have a positive vibe around the team as you get ready to pick your 26 players to go represent the United States in your home country. And I guess you can't tell Mauricio Pochettino, if you're the Fed, you can't tell him, hey, can you just kind of like keep it simple and really just scrape a win, right? Just come hell or high water, find a way to keep them off the board and maybe get a goal on a set piece and we win 1-0, because it's really important that we at least have something to point to for the general American populace when we look at this World Cup and say, hey, pay attention to this huge thing that's happening in America, which is supposed to bring soccer to the new level, Rob.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I just hope that that lineup yesterday wasn't picked that way just to placate the club teams back home for those players and the mishmash.
Man, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think Pochettino, and again, I'll lean on Matt Doyle here because he's right. Pochettino pointing out that clearly, or Doyle pointing out that Pochettino clearly centered his plan around getting Pulisic off the mark and getting him some quality chances and getting him a goal or an assist, because it's been a bad run for Christian Pulisic, for club and for country. And he's not that level, right? He's not good enough to do that because it unbalances everything else. It causes problems throughout the rest of the team. So again, playing Pulisic up high is just, it's such a simple response to a problem, and it clearly didn't work.
All right, we have two guests coming up on the show, so we're going to move on to our next topic of the day. I'm going to sip coffee, move right along here on Morning Kick Around. Are we moving into a new era of soccer fandom here in the United States? There certainly seems to be a change or a shift of folks that are gravitating towards the world's game. And we're going to take a look at Texas, as there's a few different teams kind of have a different maybe bent than we'd see from folks that were drawn to soccer in the past. And I think we'll start off with a badge reveal for a team we've talked about on the show before, but Rodeo FC in Salina, Texas revealed their official badge just recently.
There's a lot going on here. Now we covered Rodeo FC, SC, excuse me. They are a soccer club. We covered Rodeo SC because we heard about this. Remember, this was all Texoma was folding or leaving professional soccer. We had the team in McKinney, which is a summer club under the Michael Hitchcock family of clubs. We had Atletico Dallas, which at one point was supposed to play more in the suburbs, but is now going to be in the Cotton Bowl. And we were trying to get a handle on what exactly is going on here in Texas. There's so much stuff happening in Texas. They do it bigger but everything's bigger in Texas. That's what I'm being told.
Indeed.
And so we noted this club, and we picked out pretty early on, Rob, that this club is is interesting in its positioning as a faith-based club, an evangelical coded soccer club in Texas. Now, that's not necessarily obvious here from the badge, but it is obvious in other places on their website. But we get this explainer, the belt buckle. Aren't belt buckles usually the other way? Like this one is long up and down, and isn't a belt buckle usually more long side to side, more horizontal? Rob, am I wrong about that? I'm not a cowboy. I don't know.
I was just picturing you in some chaps, so got to move away from that pretty quickly. But that belt at the top of this badge looks like that would be cutting into the tummy there.
That's what. So Dwayne's got my back on this. That badge looks like a belt buckle. They say it's a belt buckle, but it looks like it's turned the wrong way.
It looks like the archway over like the entrance to a ranch to me.
Also, Sluggo saying it's the wrong way. Armando said it should be horizontal instead of vertical. Question here from Riverside Grove: is this club in RGV? No, it is not. This club is just outside Dallas. Salina is what, 40 miles from Dallas? So it's an exurb, I would call it, of Dallas, Texas. So this is Metroplex club entering the picture here. So we get the rope as the border, explained there, used across all of rodeo and everyday work life to complete tasks around the ranch. The bull rider, and again, this seems to be an outgrowth of a group of people involved in an actual rodeo, right? So they're not faking the rodeo thing in the sense that they are rodeo people, and they decide to launch a soccer club, and their rodeo organization is faith-based, very obviously faith-based. In fact, if you go to the Rodeo SC website, Rob, and you look at one of those banner pictures, sort of a background image, you can see a couple of rodeo doers, cowboys, sorry,
that's the one.
And one of them's got a cross on his back, on his vest that he wears for protection. We got the bull rider. Two worlds collide as the bull rider and the ball come together. Why an orange ball? Is that just a color scheme issue? Like you got to have an orange ball to like connect with the badge colors? I don't know. I think of orange ball and I think of snow soccer, Rob, and that's not what we got here.
That's definitely not what we have here in Texas. Yeah, they don't have a lot of snow games. And when I saw this initially posted, a lot of the reaction was to that orange ball, asking what's the deal with that?
Yeah, orange ball. And somebody also pointed out, let me go back to this. The bull seems to be heading the ball into the ground.
Maybe he's going for a flick. He's going for a flick.
No okay, so one of those, I'm on the ground, I got knocked down, and I can't, my feet are behind me. I got to go flicking the ball with my head. All right. I guess that works. There's some further explanation of the badge. Now, you mentioned
this is Nate's got it here.
Oh, it does have some Colorado caribou. It's actually the caribou of Colorado, right?
Or yeah,
something
you're
like
right.
The caribous of Colorado. Caribou is plural or caribous? Which one?
Let's go caribous.
I think it's caribou. I don't think there's that's on there. All right, you mentioned. So, what kind of fan? What kind of supporter is Rodeo SC? By the way, USL League One, correct, Rob? Just make sure we put them in their proper context. This is going to be a USL League One entry. They are set to play in 2027 at Bobcat Field in Salina, Texas. Bobcat Field is a public high school field, I believe. Their
capacity 7,000.
Well, that they do big stadiums for sports in Texas. They do. I know that they've got football stadiums for high school football that are nicer than some professional sports stadiums in other parts of the country. So that's how they do it in Texas. So USL 1, we've seen the badge. What about the fans, Rob? Should we get a taste of what kind of fans they might be attracting, what their supporter groups might look like?
Yeah, what would you say would be the supporters group name? What would be the logical fit for the supporters group name for a rodeo-based or themed soccer team?
Buckle up, guys.
Yeah, here we go.
Up. Here we go.
Angel M. Olvera.
My name is Holden Grant,
And I'm a rodeo clown.
and I am a rodeo clown.
The Rodeo Clowns, we are the hottest supporters group in the United States. I guarantee it.
They posted the name Rodeo SC, and I saw it. I was like, oh, well, the name's gotta be Rodeo Clowns.
You can't have a rodeo without clowns.
Awesome, captivating, fun, entertaining, passionate. Thank you.
And there you
Rodeo
go. That is
clowns,
the reaction to Jason Davis's face watching that. Was worth the money of admission to today's show.
I am a live and let live kind of person, Rob. I think if you are living your life and you are not harming other people in the process, you should be able to do whatever you want, right? Right. Yesterday was the International Trans Visibility Day. I think it's a worldwide thing. There was lots of conversation. We're living in this moment where people are trying to erase trans identity. Nope, we should celebrate everybody, all trans people. Welcome. You want to come over and watch soccer with me? Let's go. I'm okay with anybody's identity, again, as long as they are not harming other people in the process of their identity. And I'm having a hard time not making fun of the rodeo clowns. And I don't want to. I don't want to make fun of the rodeo clowns. I don't. I want to be positive about it.
I like that they're definitely opening themselves up for that, for having.
It's not. By the way, it's not about the way those guys. It's not about the way that those guys look. It's not about the way that. Nothing about that. There are only two guys in the entire video, so just two, right? Yeah.
they're going for it. I mean, the music that they selected for that introduction video on the silly side, but I see our channel members are favorable. A lot of them are saying that's some fun. And in Matt, custom overalls. Hey yo,
that's the thing. There is absolutely an element of this is goofy and ridiculous and cringy in the way of I'm a soccer fan and I care what other soccer cultures think of me, and I don't know if I want this attached to me as an American. I'm not saying that's my attitude, but that certainly is a place people go, right? In American soccer, we have a lot of gatekeeping. We have a lot of people who say, oh, you have to do soccer this way, right? Even the idea of learning chants through chant sheets is something you're not, that right there is something you can't do in American soccer, or you'll be called fake or ridiculous. Or again, just being an American who likes the game is somehow something to be ashamed of if you are interacting with other soccer cultures, because they have their presumed way it should work. And Americans are all crazy. I mean, it's like Chris Richards saying Chili's is America, and some people embracing that and going, absolutely. Chili's is America. And other people being, I'm so embarrassed that Chili's is America. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I struggle with that a little bit. Now, rodeo clowns as a name sounds ridiculous, but I understand that if they're leaning into the rodeo identity of the club, rodeo clowns are very important. They serve a critical role in the rodeo. What little I know about the rodeo, right? So
yeah, the rodeo or the cowboys, they're the ones that save the performers. They're the ones that distract or uplift them, and they also take a lot of the hits for the cowboys and the main performers. So I could see how it does work in a way, obviously, and also in a way it separates themselves from the traditional European or kind of MLS-centric supporter as well. So carving their own lane in a sense of they're going to do it their own way within the branding of their local soccer team.
Yeah. I mean, again, I get a little bit uncomfortable with the club setting itself up as having a faith-based element to it, because that can very quickly get exclusionary, if you're not careful with it. I don't know. Well, hopefully that's not a thing. I don't want to prejudge anybody. That's part of this. By the way, that video was dropped on February 23rd. So it's a couple months old at this point, which is good. Obviously we're getting into it now, Rob, but I just want to point out before we have to move on, today is April Fool's Day. So be very careful what you come across and process. Rob got today, guys. Rob got
10 seconds. I just shared the link a little too hastily. That's all. I figured it out. All right. I figured it out. Right. And there's a couple of little side notes of other teams that are faith-based popping up in the league for clubs and all that, but we've run out for time. But there's a new movement perhaps in soccer fandom happening in Texas.
And I think I'm sorry, I know you're moving us on and we got to talk to Steve. But I do think there's something interesting to consider in terms of where soccer is positioned in America, because I'm old enough to remember, you see the gray in my beard, when, there was a very large segment of American culture that was like, soccer is not our sport. It's a communist sport. It's a sport for Europeans. It's this and that, coding it as anti-American, almost be like outside of American identity because it wasn't manly enough or whatever. And to see a club in Texas wrap itself in rodeo themes and lean into all of that, and also for faith-based clubs in that part of the country, to go embrace the game, I think that's indicative of something about how far soccer has come as just part of America now.
Definitely notable indeed. And we are going to get to our guest here in a second, but Be Like Bob and Tulsa Mario donated in the show. There is some gift memberships up for grabs. So be sure to do that. And we are thankful for any contributions, memberships, super thanks, or just telling somebody about this show. Thank you for the support of Morning Kick Around. All right, let's move on to our guest waiting in the wings very patiently. Let's get to know Midwest Premier League here on Morning Kick Around. Welcome on in, Morning Kick Around Get to Know segment, and today we are going to get to know the Midwest Premier League a little bit better. 53 clubs, 7 divisions, including 19 expansion clubs in a new region. President of Midwest Premier League, Steve Beckman, joins us now. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning, guys.
Welcome in, Steve. As not a Midwesterner, and I think I've made this joke before when we've talked about the Midwest Premier League. So wherever there are Midwest Premier League clubs is the Midwest, and no other part of the country is the Midwest. Is that right?
So we use USASA's Region 2. So that's up from the Dakotas all the way down to Kansas, over through St. Louis, Kentucky, up through Ohio, Michigan, over to Wisconsin. That whole region of the world is where we do our soccer.
That is a lot of the country. That's a lot of Midwest for America, Rob. I know you live there, I guess, right? Is Michigan the Midwest?
I do live in the Midwest. Michigan is Midwest. As Steve Beckman, I believe, also Michigander.
Yeah, I'm in Lansing, Michigan. I also help run Lansing Common FC up here, help start the club. And it's one of the things with the Midwest Premier League is we want to make sure that the clubs are in charge of making the decision. So I have to be part of the club if I want to be the league president. So that's how I do my thing.
That's great. Now, I think it's important. I know a lot of our listeners, and this is a self-selection thing, are people very immersed in the level that the Midwest Premier League is operating. And we've covered, various other leagues. But give us kind of a remedial overview of where in the pyramid, where in the structure, where in the levels of the game the Midwest Premier League operates.
Well, everyone likes the visual pyramid, so we'll start on top with the 3 pro divisions. So that's obvious, your MLS and your USL systems. And then once you get below those first 3, it's basically uncharted waters. Like the U.S. Soccer Federation doesn't say anything about anything below 3. So we're all in a big morass at the 4th level. That's semi-professional, that's amateur, that's local, that's regional, that's national. We're all kind of at the same level, but we're at different, divisions of it, going horizontally, not vertically. So we get a lot of, college age players, but we have post-college players. We have guys who are just, they're still at that level of fitness, but they're professionals living out their lives post-school. So like USL League 2, everyone's familiar, gets a lot of Division 1 college players. We're concurrent with that. So they're a national league, like the UPSL is a national league, like the NPSL is a national league, like the League for Clubs is, and we're a regional league. So we don't focus on national playoffs. We focus on being more local. So if there's a club or if there's an area that wants to start a club up, we're an easier way to get into the soccer world. We're much less expensive. We want to make sure that travel is lower, and that the clubs have something to say about what their league is going to do. So we're kind of at that same 4th tier, but we're in the same level doing different things.
And so you kind of, how'd you reference it? The uncharted territory at that level of the game. So with that said, there's a lot of leagues in the mix, and a lot of the reason why we had you on is to really pinpoint what the Midwest Premier League does and who it serves. But who are you in competition with clubs? Because clubs come, like you've expanded, or Midwest Premier League has expanded, but there's also been some teams go the other way. What other leagues are at this level?
Well, the league all started from some former UPSL clubs that wanted to have more say into what their league was doing. So we're kind of at that UPSL level without being national, like I mentioned. So we try to keep things closer. We don't have, overhead for national competition or playoffs. We want to make sure that, we can keep things as close as possible to have more of a community feel for our clubs.
You mentioned sort of the range of the types of players. I mean, obviously, there's a selection thing here too, right? The kind of players these clubs can get are only at a certain level, but you kind of identify that there may be some college players in the summer. There may be some guys that are former college players, ex-pros, even guys who have never gotten a chance to play at a decent level, but can make a team. So that's part and parcel of what you were talking about, where the clubs are making their choices here, right? These are independently run clubs, and you guys have at the league level have no say in what kind of player they're bringing into their teams.
Right. We don't have an age limit other than you have to be 16 or older. So we don't cap it like, USL League 2 has certain requirements for ages of players. We're open to, any range of it as long as, what a club wants to sign up with. So yeah, we've had former MLS players. We've had, high school players who are ascending that are, 18 years old and coming up, or 16. So it's everything in between. It could be, a local league team that decided they wanted to get into a regional competition because it's a higher level of, clubs that they're going to go up against, or it's, an outfit like Oakland County FC, which Robert is very familiar with, having a larger roster and having the ability to also have games. So we've added some, clubs that are in USL League 2 that have, their, not necessarily all their U23 guys, but having another level of the roster that wants to compete. So we want to make sure that it runs the gamut from a corporate club level to a youth club that wants to add an adult team for their college players in the summer, to it's completely independent like we are at Lansing Common.
And so at the top of our interview, I mentioned that there's 7 divisions, and those are across that large region 2 of the Midwest. So which areas are showing the most growth for Midwest Premier League right now?
Well, over our last expansion window, we added the most clubs in our Gateway and Heartland conferences. So we added 5 clubs from the Kansas City area. So that gave us an additional division down for our Gateway conference, and another 4 clubs around the greater St. Louis area. And then up around Chicagoland, we added 6 clubs. So we added the most in the Chicagoland, but in our conferences, as far as that's concerned, our Gateway conference grew the most.
So you're seeing demand here, right? And this is interesting because, full disclosure, I've done some video work with the UPSL. I've talked to the people on sort of the promotion side, I guess you would argue. There's a certain guy whose job it is to make videos and highlight teams and tell stories about players, and they're always trumpeting, oh, this player went and got a pro contract or whatever it might be. How much of that is part of Midwest Premier League? I mean, how do you think about growth? Is it simply we just want to be a good place for clubs to play and we'll attract clubs if they want to join, or is there an additional level of growing beyond just a regional soccer league?
It's kind of a mix of both. So we want to make sure that we have a number of clubs in a certain geographic area to build out our schedule so they're not, overbearing. So we want to make sure that we're adding in the right places, but then we're also adding the right clubs. So ideally we would, have every community that wanted to have an independent club would have one, because we're available and it's, affordable for a small group to start up. But we want to make sure that where we have our population centers, if we can grow our number of clubs to the point where we can have pro rel within the same conference or within the same division, like we have in our Heartland conference, that's kind of the goal. So we've set it. Our plan was for like the year 2030. We called it our 2030 plan, is that once you hit a number in a certain geographic region, that's where you're going to split into individual divisions with pro rel. Obviously, geography is expansive in the Midwest compared to, your eastern seaboards. So we have to make sure that we're smart about where those clubs are if we're going to implement pro rel, and it means it's not going to be out of hand or too expensive for the clubs that participate to do that. So we got that as our framework. So we want to make sure that when we get those clubs in those areas, they're aware of it. But then you have your outliers that are like 3-4 hours away from everybody else. It doesn't necessarily make sense. So we want to just be a solution for them, not necessarily being strict about how we get there.
That's interesting, and I'm glad to hear that. So, peek behind the curtain, I was able to attend a couple of those early AGM meetings and kind of got to hear a lot of the kind of the brainstorming and what you wanted to be. Like it's a for us by us sort of a thing with the clubs. A club-led league that was tired of paying fees and stuff and not necessarily hearing their voices, the voices they air be put into action in any way. In the years since, this is what, year 5 for the league, has that focus on what clubs are concerned about, has that shifted or changed in any way over the last few years?
No, this will be our 6th season coming up this year. So we wanted to make sure that our clubs, have a voice in what they wanted. So a few years ago, there was a proposal to have substitution reentry. So we had clubs that want to do that so they could have additional players, especially if you're making that 3-hour trip to a game, that they're going to get meaningful minutes. They're not just going to sit on the bench the whole time. So that came forward as a proposal from the clubs, which we put out to the entire league. Every league member got a chance to vote on that, whether they wanted to do it or not. And then we do things like that. So if we have ideas about, splitting divisions in a conference, we want every member of that conference to be able to have their voice heard. So we've always stuck to that ethos about making sure that the clubs are in charge of it. Because myself being in Michigan, I don't know what the landscape of Kansas City is like. I want them to be able to make their own choices, but have, a level playing field and everyone's playing by the same rules. We just want to make sure that, those rules make sense every year we go by so that our clubs can make sure they're having their voice heard.
I like this. I think one of the things, and it's far be it from me, I've never run a league, have never been involved in soccer at this level, to say this, but I like that there are clear guardrails on where it's not about where you want to go. It's like you have those guardrails to kind of make sure that there isn't some outsized plan that eats up everything, because I think so many leagues at this level and obviously higher levels have fallen into that trap, Steve, of, oh yeah, this looks great. Oh, we're going to really go for it now, pedal to the metal, and they get out over their skis. I'm using all the metaphors I can here, and everything comes crashing down. Or in the case of some of the leagues that we've witnessed, they stop, again, representing the interest of the individual clubs. And I think, I guess from your perspective, you just kind of got to accept that there's going to be some addition, and you've got a lot of that now, and some attrition as well, right? And kind of be, say, la vie with that.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the price point that we're at to make it accessible for clubs to join means that that's not necessarily like an overwhelming financial commitment. Like if you're going to start up, like we'll say a USL League 2 club, you're going to have to put some money into that. You're going to have to make sure that you have a lot of amenities available. You have to make sure that you can cater to your roster. But ours, we're just making sure that you have a club that your locals can come support. Your players can be, staying fit if it's a youth club that's moving into college, or just those college players that are available that aren't in any of the other leagues. We want to make sure that we have all of that stuff available.
So in 2026, year 6 of the Midwest Premier League, outside of seeing those new teams, acclimatize themselves to the league, what kind of are you looking for results wise, or what are you most looking forward to as the president of the league? What do you want to see this time?
Metrics,
like when the season's over?
About metrics?
No, I want to see these teams do well. I want to see this or this or this happen. No fights in the games. I mean, what are the goals here?
As the president of the league, I want to see as little discipline as possible. So I want to see our players behaving well and making sure that, we don't have any issues that we have to spend a lot of our personal time on adjudicating, as has happened over years. But as far as that's concerned, the growth in our Heartland Conference, to the point where our second division split off into 2 separate groups because there were so many. After this year, we're probably going to go to a third division. So seeing how that all works out, because only one club from each of those 2 Division 2 groups is going to get promoted in Division 1. So to see what that looks like after this season. So the competition will kind of sort itself out. So our clubs that finish higher in their table or in their groups will probably end up in a second division, and the ones that are lower in a third. And what does that mean towards the end of our season as far as competition is concerned? You always want to say meaningful games towards the end of the season. I think that will definitely drive that in our Heartland Conference. And then in our Gateway Conference, we added so many clubs that we want to see that what level they're bringing. So we know our Kansas City clubs are going to be a little higher on the adult level, so older players, and then we have our college players from mainly the St. Louis area. So what does that look like when they meet in a championship game, that level of play when it finally comes together?
Yeah, that was one of the things I really enjoyed. I did some commentary the last few summers and seeing the likes of FC Cedars, our Cedars FC, who were those post-college guys, like really good robust, solid players playing against, Liverpool Academy in Pontiac, who were, kids, and seeing that conflict or contrast of player and style was pretty compelling and interesting. Before we let you go, is there anything, folks who are just learning about Midwest Premier League, anywhere you want to direct them to learn more and maybe see if they have a team nearby?
Yeah, I mean, follow us on social. So it's MidwestPL. So a lot of our stuff is on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, X. If you go on our website, if you're interested in joining an expansion club into our 2027 season, we've got a nice big button in the top that says interested teams join here. So you'll get an application, and you'll get a packet from us that explains, what the requirements are for being in our league, what you're going to expect to spend, what you can expect to experience. Check us out on socials. We want more clicks so we get more eyeballs, so we can get a lot more things coming for our clubs in the future.
Well, Steve Beckman, president of Midwest Premier League, thank you for joining us here on the show today. And then I'm excited for the prospect of OCFC2 playing your Lansing Common. Now, the prospect is now real now that we're in that league. So thank you for joining us here on the show today.
Yeah, of course. Always happy to talk about lower league soccer.
All right.
There goes Steve Beckman. Really good stuff there, Rob.
All right. Thank you to all of our commenters. A lot of people chiming in the chat during that conversation. And we got a new member, Steve Cook, in the mix. Thank you so much for becoming a member. We pulled a little bit of a simul click. You go ahead. Put them on the screen there, Jason. Here we go.
Okay. Are we clanging clangers for members? Is that what
Why
we're
not?
doing
We've been
today?
clangerless during the show today.
I regret to inform you that my wife has stolen my Clank the Clanger shirt. I don't think I'm getting it back. I think it's just hers now.
She liked it that much?
Things arrived and she was like, "Oh, you bought me clothes." And I was like, "No, these are for the Oh, yeah, okay, well, they're mine." All right. Well, I guess I'll have to get some more. That's how that works.
Yeah, I guess if there's a lady in the house, always buy an extra hoodie, because the hoodies always end up being, shifted that direction as well. Great reminder, though. While the pre-order or the pre-sale for the jerseys is in, the rest of the merchandise is like the Clank the Clanger t-shirt and the sweatshirts and hoodless sweatshirts like this with the Morning Kick Around theme are available on the store. And while there has been a little bit of a delay getting the kits produced, they are still on the way. Thank you all for the patience. They are coming your way, and they will be beautiful. All right, we have our second guest of the day waiting for us. So we're going to talk about starting your own club with Tom from Soccer Zombie and Forest Park Rangers up next here on Morning Kick Around. Welcome back in Morning Kick Around here on a Wednesday. Staying in the Midwest of the United States as we dot the map, we have MK Ultra, friend of the show, Soccer Zombie, and now club founder, Tom Franklin. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me on. And I am just so excited to spread the word about Forest Park Rangers. I've been anyone that knows me lately knows I've been kind of obnoxious about talking about FPR, but I'm glad to spread my obnoxiousness here on Morning Kick Around.
Yeah, you're I'm not going to say you're dressed obnoxiously, but you are decked out, Tom. You look the part as you're selling Forest Park Rangers. I thought we were going to talk about what place in the Midwest has the best pizza. That's not what we're doing today. We're talking soccer. Rob has an opinion. Tom has an opinion.
Yeah, nothing as divisive and nothing that would turn me off to my fellow St. Louisans, because I cannot say that St. Louis has the best pizza in the Midwest.
All right, that's fine. That's good. I'm glad that you're being honest. But with Forest Park, have one of the best clubs in St. Louis, right? No problem there, Tom.
Oh, no, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, Forest Park Rangers, I mean, this has been a great journey so far. I mean, and it's a journey that's only taken about 6 months to get to this point. Like, this all started with an idea in September amongst me and other, lower league soccer fans that, we had lost our club that had played in the USL2, St. Charles FC. And we had, during their time, we had always talked about, like, what if we had our own club? What if, what are things that we would do differently that St. Charles FC was not doing in terms of fan engagement, in terms of having a community presence? And so it really just was a matter of getting all of us together to sit down, have a beer, and figure out how we're going to get this thing off the ground.
I've thrown up some images here. Yeah. Just because I grabbed these from the Protagonist. So shout out to our friends at the Protagonist, Dan Vaughn and his crew. They did a Who Are You on Forest Park. So I grabbed these from them. We've got you, and I'm imagining all your co-founders there together, Tom.
Yes. So immediately to your right is Joe Miller. He is our director of marketing and a former Mud Puppy Ultra of St. Charles FC. And that's his wife, Christine, who is our chairwoman. And then Stephen Bolin is our vice chair to the right of her. And then our treasurer, Philip, is sneaking back there. He is arguably our MVP because, let's face it, who really wants to get into the weeds on accounting when you're, it's not the fun thing about starting a soccer club is numbers and money.
Accounting is not the fun thing of anything. Accounting is the worst possible. Ask Rob about how we run our business here at Morning Kick Around. I hate it so much.
Jason and I are a little too like-minded to be partners in business when it comes to numbers and counting and accounting. But you touched on the fact of, like, you guys kind of all knew each other already from the USL2 team that went away. Because one of the questions I was going to say, you've done really well with fundraising. You seem like you have a core crew already. And that was based on that former team that did go away. So now you took it upon yourselves, like many entrepreneurs and soccer lovers do. You wanted to start your own team. So what were some of the things that old team weren't doing that are kind of like the cornerstones of what you're doing here with Forest Park Rangers?
Well, I mean, for one, I know people that live in St. Charles County that are also soccer fans and fans of St. Louis City, which is, really kind of, sparked a lot of interest in the game locally. I mean, of course, we have our history, but like having an MLS club did, bring some new eyes to the game. And even during like 2024, like people didn't know who St. Charles FC was. Like there was no outreach, there was no marketing, nothing like that. They kind of, it was an extension of their youth academy. And it was, almost at times just felt like an obligation to them to put on a game. Like, and like you would show up to the game and there would be minimal concessions and just not a lot of, things to really draw people in. Whereas, at Forest Park Rangers, one of the things that we are all about is being very present in our community, and that includes, outreach. So we've been talking with Missouri Relief about potentially doing some tree planting in Forest Park and doing some volunteering in Forest Park, which was damaged by a really bad tornado, not actually about this time last year. And it's still kind of on the mend for that. We recently, when we launched our badge and our team name, where that photo was taken, we also held a new and used soccer equipment donation drive for the Boys and Girls Club of Greater St. Louis. And we were able to raise about 100 pounds worth of soccer kits. And I'm talking like the full, shirts, shorts, soccer balls, shin guards, basically everything that a young boy or girl in St. Louis would need to start playing the game. And so we are going to be working more with the Boys and Girls Club going forward. We have a couple other outreach opportunities that we're doing. We also are working with the Missouri Youth Soccer Association. In fact, they had a big tournament this past weekend that we volunteered as field marshals for. And we also, had a tent there to introduce people to our club. And it's been a great response so far. Like, I think the next member who signs up for Forest Park Rangers would be member number 200.
Hey,
nice. We got a badge explainer there. Normally, I make fun of badge explainers, Tom. Sometimes they're a little goofy. They're a little over the top. You can tell it's been reverse engineered to explain some things that just look cool on a badge. It looks like you got some good stuff here. I'm not hating this. I like this. I like the Grand Basin, obviously the shape there. You got the roots, you got the initials baked into the to the badge, and then you've got open border. I'm a fan of this stuff.
Yeah, Justin Strebel, he is a local St. Louis sports fan, and he's also a great graphic designer. And we were very lucky to have him come on our project. And really, just like, the roots, I'll explain about the roots real quick. So there's 7 root branches, I guess, for lack of a better term, and they represent our 7 pillars of purpose, which is community, authenticity, sustainability, inclusivity, integrity, legacy, and excellence. And Justin, just alone, he nails, the community and authenticity is, quite frankly, excellence on this, because we wanted to do something that was a little more modern with our logo and just a little different, but also really highlight the fact that we are rooted not just in our soccer history, which we want to honor with our team, but also just in our community as well. So yeah, the badge, the FPR is hidden in the tree. It's shaped like the Grand Basin, which is one of the big features in Forest Park. And even the top part of that badge has a little bit of an Easter egg. So you see how it's kind of wavy there at the top?
Yeah.
It actually is the exact shape of the road that goes along the north end of the Grand Basin. So that was intentional. It wasn't just meant to be, something, eye-catching for eye-catching's sake. That was actually a nod to the actual layout of the Grand Basin.
Oh, so everything very intentional here on the Forest Park Rangers FC badge. I like that. I like that a lot. And shout out to some of your partners here. Christine in the mix here in the chat. Thank you for tuning in, fellow Forest Park Rangers. We just had the president of the Midwest Premier League, Steve Beckman, on the show. And that's your destination, right? Midwest Premier League set to start play in 2027. So I'm sure. So what do you go in the rest of 2026 as you went from the launch stage, and then now this time next year you'll be getting ready to play?
Correct. So we, first of all, Midwest Premier League is a very intentional decision by us. As Steve explained, the Gateway Conference has really exploded in growth to where the Gateway East Division, where we would play, now has 11 clubs in it. 8 from St. Louis, 1 from Jefferson City, and 2 from southeastern Iowa. And that's in addition to the 5 Kansas City clubs and AFC Columbia that'll be playing out in the West. And one of the co-founders for AFC Columbia, Zach Fisher, was actually kind of, if you were looking for a spark that actually started FPR as we know it today, it was Zach, because he was the one that was kind of saying, hey, there is an opening, I feel, for a, fan-owned, community club in St. Louis. And clearly he was right, because it's worked out so far. And it's funny, it's funny coming off the heels of Steve Beckman being on this show, because really, he was also one of the co-founders for Lansing Common. And really, Lansing Common is a big inspiration for what we're doing here with FPR, just that having that member-owned, member-run community club that they've done a tremendous job with. And in fact, we're actually going to be making a pilgrimage ourselves up there to attend their July 10th game later this year, just to meet them. Also, Steve needs to get one of our scarves. He became a member of FPR, and we need to hand deliver his scarf to him. So if nothing else, we're making a mail run. But really, like, Lansing Common was a big inspiration for us. Of course, you can mention AFC Wimbledon, German clubs. I'm an owner of Finn Harps in Ireland. Just as examples. But yeah, we're taking the rest of 2026 to really kind of just for lack of a better term, establish our roots, and just, get our organization locked down. We're in the process of hiring a sporting director that is going to really start shaping how we're going to look on the field in 2027, just in terms of, coaches and structure and that sort of thing. Because I'm a fan first. All of us that are on the board are generally fans first, but we realize that we need people that have expertise in various areas to really lead the way. And that includes on the sporting side. None of us are sporting guys. So expect an announcement on our next sporting director, probably within the next few weeks.
Yeah. This is a good, I like this show because I learned stuff on this show. And I've been for the last 20 years very focused on the top end of the game. And the U.S. men's national team, and can we win a World Cup, and will Major League Soccer be one of the best leagues in the world, and how do we get there? And it even though I am very good at sometimes pointing at people and saying, you're not thinking long term, you're only thinking about tomorrow, you're trying to skip the line, or you're trying to cheat to get to where you want, not literally cheat, but like you're trying to cheat time. I'm great at pointing that out. Sometimes I'm not good at appreciating what it takes to actually not do that, right? To do it the right way, Tom. And, we can't predict the future. We don't know exactly what's going to happen for Forest Park Rangers, but your club and so many like them in this country are how we do that, right? We didn't get these clubs started. We did have clubs started in the 19th and early 20th century. This didn't last. So we have to do this to get our communities involved, to help people understand that the connection to the game doesn't have to be rooting for the team that's going to charge you $80 a ticket. It can be this.
And that's literally one reason why we exist, is because and don't get me wrong, I'm a St. Louis City fan. All of us on the board are St. Louis City fans, and I enjoy going to St. Louis City games all the time. But we also realize at the same time that the economy is what it is. The family budget is what it is, and we wanted to offer something that was affordable for fans as well. And that is something that has, I think, really resonated with members that have joined us, is the fact that we are not owned by any corporation or conglomerate, and we don't really want to be. We are a full-blown 501c3. We're a full-blown nonprofit in every sense of the word. And we do this because we love the game and we love the community that this game can foster. And we saw in a way to, deliver a positive impact on our community through soccer, and not because we're looking to make a buck.
Right, exactly. And it came up, I think Riverside Grove said it earlier when we were talking to Steve. I say this all the time. My unified theory of American soccer is that everything we do, and this is true of American sports in general, we think of, we got to start a league. And then from there we go, we got to populate this league with clubs. So we're going to pick a city and we're going to find a guy to put a team in that city, and they're going to find somebody else. And this is the USL model as it exists right now. I mean, there are some clubs that predate what USL is doing, but a lot of this, what the things we were talking about with Justin Papadakis, who's no longer in his role, is that going out and selling a city on, hey, you should have a soccer club. And I'm not saying I'm trying not to make a value judgment here, Tom, but I definitely think that there is another way to do it that might actually be better, and that is to think of the club first, right? And Forest Park, by virtue of the MWPL existing, has an easy way to start playing games, and then everything builds from there. And then one day, again, we don't know, but Forest Park or somebody else can say, hey, we're big enough that we need a better league. And, okay, well, let's ask for admittance to this league instead of this, again, top-down model that seems to center the wrong things more often than not.
And not only that, but, I feel this model sometimes leaves fans feeling a little jilted and a little, like they're not a part of the process.
Exactly.
Whereas with us, like, we've had key decisions made by our membership already. We took nominations on our name. We had over 80 submissions, and unfortunately, Soccer McSoccerface United did not win out. But but like an example of our very name, Forest Park Rangers. Like, I personally and other board members were obsessed with the idea of using like some sort of brick theme for our name, because St. Louis is known for its red brick and its brick streets. So I was thinking like Bricktown, St. Louis. But Forest Park Rangers organically ran away with the fan vote. Like, it wasn't even close, and there was no campaigning. It just ran away with it. And so that is one way that we listen to our members. And, again, we've raised about $22,000, and the overwhelming majority of that is just from fan memberships. We had 64 Founders Ring memberships at the $314 level. That gives you all the membership perks, including a scarf, plus lifetime membership, as well as lifetime season tickets to any Midwest Premier League game. We sold out of all 64 of them, maybe a week after we launched FPR. And so, I think it's just sending a message to members and future members that, hey, there is a club that listens to you and actually takes you into account and not just your wallet.
Yeah, it's very encouraging that there was that appetite there, because at certain points, some people across this nation have to be growing it from the bottom up rather than that top down, which we do see more often than not. How many teams have had to go on a hiatus or move down the pyramid rather than only seen a few go the other direction. So thank you for doing that work. And it's very exciting that you have like-minded individuals who had an idea, pushed forward, made it reality, and then getting support from the community and listening to the community to create this member-owned team. So very excited for what the future brings for Forest Park Rangers. And then we'll have to keep in touch. Obviously, you're an Ultra, you're in the Discord and all that, but we'll love to see what happens in 2027 when the Forest Park Rangers hit the field.
Yeah.
You got the finger of power. Were you looking for something else there, Jason?
No, this is just my affirmation of everything Tom is doing, everything Forest Park is doing. Follow and support. And I love that we are, again, obviously Tom's channel is a place to go and all the stuff he's making himself, but there are other people learning from Tom in our Discord as ultras and taking heart that this is possible in America in 2026.
Yeah, and I want to thank Protagonist Soccer as well for doing that article on us as well. And if anyone is interested in learning more about Forest Park Rangers, including getting club updates, how we were founded, and even looking at our membership options, fprfc.com is where you can go. forestparkrangersfc.com. And yeah, like I said, it's been a great ride so far, and we are truly a club that is built by our community, and we can all be proud of that.
All right, great stuff, Tom. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll keep an eye on the progress of not only your channel but that club as well. Great show today here.
Incredible show.
Action-packed.
Incredible show. Really good stuff. Really enjoyed that one. I hope a lot of people got something out of it.
Yeah, so we talked men's national team. We talked a new turn of fandom in Texas. We learned just how much Jason likes to point. We talked Midwest Premier League and then a member launched and owned club down there launching with Soccer Zombie, Tom Franklin. All right, and then thank you. I can't move on without thanking our brand new members and those who got donated. Mr. Bob and Tulsa Mario, of course, donated some memberships. We also had Billy Bob Western contribute a gift membership, and then Steve Cook becoming a member of his own volition. Thank you, and we will see you in the Discord for Morning Kick Round. That's really where the conversation happens outside of the show.
Probably need to post a new Discord link because they expire. So I probably need to do that, and I will try to do it immediately following the program. So if you are not already in the Discord and you are a member, look for a new post on the YouTube channel for members only that will have a link to the Discord. Jump in, please do it. Don't be scared if you're an old like me. Discord is fine. It's just a chat place. Just get different channels on different subjects, and we get to mix it up with soccer fans.
We'll be back again live Friday morning at that 9:30 Eastern time. As per tradition, we'll talk about some Open Cup action as that's been absent from our coverage this week thus far. We'll also talk about some other summer amateur leagues popping up and expanding across the United States and much, much more when we return. So until Friday morning, everybody, please stay safe, remain brave, and enjoy your soccer.